As technology has evolved, has Duncan seen any major changes or shifts in consumer psychology, and how have those changes impacted what makes a winning CX strategy today?
Well, it's definitely changed. I mean, as we talk about patience, number one, and to a degree, sort of laziness, we're expecting things to be easier, to be simpler, to add a value to my life. And also now, we become quite faddish about things as well. So that keeping it fresh, keeping it exciting, because only a click away to find something new. And something new is coming out every day and every week. The behaviors we've seen, come back to a little bit your sustainability point, where people are actually wanting to, first of all, have more of an experience. And secondly, they're wanting to have something that transcends more from just, pure selfishness. They like the idea that they actually can combine it with doing something good out there in the world at the same time. And I think that is the shift, this want for experience, which means, again, I will get bored of transactional experiences unless I'm getting additional stimulation, unless what I'm doing, this interaction, my clicking through, my purchasing this, if I'm not buying into something bigger, if I'm not gaining something more valuable for myself, then I'll get bored and then I'll go searching and hunting. I mean, look, you've got search engines now that actually talk about, for all the searches, that they're planting trees and they're talking about it in the millions. You've got social media where the more interactions you're having, the more they're putting back into community services. You've got there's lots of these fusions happening now where the experience is beyond just simply that moment in time, but you're inputting to something bigger. So I think that's the shift. I mean, again, for us, the big shift has been moving away from just simply understanding linear journeys and touch points and interactions to now moving it into emotions, understanding what creates anxiety, what creates excitement and stimulation, being able to measure that to make sure we can build that in. We've learned how to design journeys now. A lot of it comes from the gaming world.
Does it?
You don't just do a flat line because you get
no,
bored.
Those linear games are bored.
There's challenges.
The classics though, Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff, they're pretty linear, but yeah.
Even that, because game designers have really brought us something quite useful, because they, create a stress level. You've got to have achieved something, then simplify it for a little bit, then take it up to another level. And, in the old days, we call it boss games and boss levels and things, where you've got a challenge, you've got competition, you've got something more.
But now people can just uninstall and just download another game.
Whereas
when I was younger, your mum and dad buy you your Mega Drive game, and they spent 40 quid on it. It doesn't matter if you get stuck on a level, you've got to stick to it.
As social media and Web 2 came, people have become more impatient with things like instant gratification. But you talk about how people seek, more rewarding experiences. Do you think that consumer psychology will evolve much further with the metaverse, or how do you see that changing?
No, I think that's a really interesting question, and it's it's one to put a big question mark over at the moment.
Yeah,
I think there's a number of different aspects with metaverse. If we use it correctly, we have a lot of hindsight from where social media went wrong and has taken people down negative avenues and what sort of negative psychologies come from it. So we should be able to learn from that before we really head into metaverse. But you're right, it's going to be a whole new level of behavior. I mean, at the moment we're doing some investigations into what will be the next version of a car dealership, because again, they rely on all sorts of different sensory sciences, the smells, the great customer service, the giving me the coffee, the salesperson looking and understanding. Now, if I'm going to have complete control of that myself, and I'm going to manage that within my augmented environment or my virtual environment, it's like, what do they lose? How can they still bring in those elements
back? Good point.
How do we break down in a positive way these divisions between human and digital? But how do we bring in the right sort of the behaviors, and we don't start moving people into these sort of zombie-like approaches, I guess, and that is the worry, again, from gaming. The more we've gone into sort of the quests and starting to use virtual reality, and it's like, how do you differentiate? You start to separate your real world from your virtual worlds. It gets, so there's a lot of interesting behavior things to understand.
Believer avatars.
Yeah.
It's
scary because then, you've just played a Spider-Man game and you suddenly walk out, it's like, I can't be arsed waiting for the traffic lights, I'm going to climb the wall. Oh no, I forgot. No, hang on, take that. No, actually, it's a lot more difficult than I thought.
Very good point. So there's a lot to explore there.
There is a lot to explore. There's a lot to understand. We've got a lot of hindsight if we use it properly. But I think also there's going to be some potentially risky things that come out of it. And again, they talk about democratized world in the metaverse, and I think that's going to be really important. But there's going to be some degrees of policing, because you're going to have all the lovely pink fluffy nice stuff at the top, and then we're going to have some very dark environments
Absolutely.
created underneath.
Yeah, without a doubt.